Welcome to New Friends Cinema,
where we get to know each other by sharing our favorite movies.
From childhood throwbacks to recent comforts, we walk through the stories together.
Keep in mind this podcast contains mad spoilers, and join us at the
New Friends Cinema. I don't know. I don't hate plastic or paper straws the way other people hate paper straws.
I don't hate them either, but it's more so the sog factor at a certain point where you're like, you're no longer usable. That's okay.
I think the issue that I have with paper straws is that it was that turtle video, right? It was that turtle video, and then all of a sudden paper straws are the fucking, or plastic straws are the devil, right?
Yeah.
They're
plastic
but it's
cutlery,
like
plastic bags.
But it's like plastic period.
Yeah.
Also litter period. Like it.
Have you seen that garbage?
I just feel like it was something for people to rally behind for a second, and then it was like done and dusted. We solved it. We solved pollution. Good job,
Fuck
guys.
those straws. Climate crisis.
And now I can't
fine.
have a nice straw ever again.
Never.
You know?
Never.
That's really what it's about.
Have you had, I was like, have you had the bamboo ones? It's like, or the straw ones? Cause I've had them from Red Light, and of course you know what they are.
Oh yeah. My husband was the head chef there for a year and a half. Right, yeah. We do have some bamboo ones here that are reusable, and they're fine. Like bamboo metal, like whatever the ones that you keep in the house.
Yeah.
Those are great.
Easy.
But I'm a straw gal. I'm a straw gal, period. I need a straw.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a straw. If there's ice in my drink at all, there needs to be a straw, and there's always ice in my drink. Like I'm not drinking a drink without ice.
Fucking room temperature liquid?
And that's a really like a North America thing, hey?
Really?
Like in Europe and stuff, they don't do
ice.
Yeah. Do you know what I was thinking about the other day? I was watching Bridgerton, and they brought in an ice sculpture, and I was like, how the fuck did they used to get ice? I bet the ice trade was probably so lucrative and fruit, like, fickle.
Well, just the logistics alone.
Did they have to go into the ocean and get it off of an iceberg? That's literally a question.
But by the time they get back, it takes so long to get to and fro from places.
That's what I'm saying.
It would have melted to pieces.
Like, in the winter, yeah, unlimited ice. But how the fuck did they get the ice for that ice sculpture in the 1800s?
I don't think they did. I think that's the point.
Oh. Right. Are you telling me that Bridgerton is not historically accurate?
Bridgerton is not historically accurate.
You're telling me that the men of England in the 1800s weren't just like gung-ho about cunnilingus and fingering?
No, and just acknowledging the fact that racism and colonialism probably was the primary difference of back then. But yeah. Bridgerton,
right. Also,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. No, I think it's. I don't think they had ice. I think that's the shtick. Maybe winter.
Every time I drink something that's iced or has ice, I'm gonna really have a deeper appreciation for it. I loved Bridgerton. I watched it all in a weekend just the other day, right, or like a couple weeks ago. But I wish it could have been. It's like, if we're getting rid of racism in this show, can we get rid of like homophobia too? Like, why couldn't it have also been gay?
Yeah, well, that's what they're leading up to. That whole queer
we got a couple little.
tidbits at the end.
Yeah, I knew Ben was bi from the second I laid eyes on him.
From the first season,
yeah.
I was like, boy likes it all.
Yeah,
baby boy.
And I just want them to be able to. Yeah,
I think they are going in that direction because the one sister, Francesca, has this moment. They gender bend. And that was supposed to be a guy at the end. Her name's like Michaela or something, but it's actually Michael in the books.
Oh, they like gender swapped it?
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
And I think they are leaning into this idea of, well, we solved racism, might as well solve homophobia in this beautiful world.
This fucking world that we created. Like, why not? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Hell yeah.
I can't recall. Do you watch Doctor Who?
No.
Okay. There was this one season this one episode in the latest season where it was a full Bridgerton episode. And they even named it. It's like, oh my god, it's like Bridgerton. But they had to do this like distraction scene where they were like, okay, we have to create such a big deal or such a scandal. And the doctor and, like this male bounty hunter did like a full blown like dance scene in the middle of everyone, and everyone was like, oh my god, two men, they cannot dance. And then one proposed to the other as part of the distraction, and it was genius. It was so good. Anyways, I think you would like this season. If you wanted to start Doctor Who, I think it'd be this season.
I've been thinking about Doctor Who more than I'd like to admit lately. And I just feel like it's probably something I would love. From what I've gleaned.
Yeah.
It seems like it's right up my alley. You just said it. It's so over the top. That's really what I live for. So.
Yeah. And he's openly gay. This season. It's so, it's about time. Not only is he a black doctor, but
queer sci-fi fantasy.
It is everything, baby. Yeah. Doctor Who is everything.
I'm gonna give it a go, I think.
Okay. Give it a go.
Yeah. Should we start?
I think it's been a solid amount of just chit chat, but that's fine.
We haven't even started the podcast.
No.
Okay. Are you ready?
This is for later. Yes.
Okay. Welcome back to New Friends Cinema. I'm Dakota. The big breath that I took right before I said, welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm Courtney, and we are excited to be here today. We've got our old mic back.
Situation back to normal.
Woo!
Holy shit. I'm just like, it is what it is, but guys, I am sorry. This is in advance. Recording this, it is in advance before you get your ears destroyed by the audio quality of the last 2 episodes. But when you hear this, it will be.
It's retroactive.
Late. It's retroactive.
It's retroactive.
We apologize. We did our best. We are a grassroots, homegrown, tiny little DIY podcast. I am doing my best.
And we're grateful for it. People are hungry. They will eat it up. It's fine. But we are here today, on this beautiful summer day.
Oh my gosh.
There's not a fucking cloud in the sky.
None.
And I'm going
to spend the rest of the day inside in front of my computer.
But that's how I live during the summer. I am an indoor girly.
It's nice out there.
My skin tone does not equate doing well in this amount of sun. I will literally burn to a crisp and die.
Last year when I had just finished school at this time and I didn't have a job yet, so I kind of had summer vacation last year and I was not inside.
You were out.
Period.
You were swimming every day.
I was in the water
every day.
Yeah. So that's going to be hard for me this year, I think.
We'll give you the donut update. So the donuts at the local shop today were key lime filled.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
Blueberry lavender
glaze.
And, should we say it together? Matcha glaze.
I don't know why I went into matcha glaze.
Yeah.
Like full blown auto.
You got both of the glazed ones,
I
right?
did. Ty and I have this thing where we split them down the middle and then we each get half.
Yeah,
so we get a little bit of both.
That is the number one reason to have a partner. Yes. Honestly, it's at the top of my list. I don't if we go to a restaurant, it's guaranteed we're having a conflab. We're doing math. We're figuring out what is the most strategic way that we can order so that I get to try everything that I want to try.
Yeah. You got the soup, I get the salad. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Or let's be realistic. It's French fries and something else.
Someone has to get fries. It's like we don't both need to get fries, but somebody has to. Yeah.
It's kind of in our social contract. At all points in time, one person must fall on their sword and get French fries.
Yeah.
It's the law.
I'm not a huge potato person. Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, yeah, I like them for sure, but
they're bland as fuck.
I don't think I feel the same way about potatoes that a lot of people do.
Fair.
Yeah.
Do you have that thing though, that vegetable or that thing where you're like, fuck me up, give it to me in all forms?
I really, honestly, I'm not sure. I love green vegetables. Like asparagus season just passed. When asparagus is in season, I'm eating it every day. Oh. And like for dinner multiple times, I just had like sauteed asparagus and bread.
Oh, that is.
And with like goat cheese on it.
Minimal.
But like, it's maximal because I'm eating like a fucking huge amount of asparagus.
The amount of fiber that's going through your system right
girl,
now.
I was a regular. We'll just say that. But no, I can't, I don't know. I like them all.
Aww.
I really do.
Equally.
Not equally, but I like them all. We could just do a vegetable rating podcast if you want.
Oh, Ty and I have our top 5.
So, okay, tell me, what are they?
Okay, so there's onion, potato. Well, you gotta include all of them.
Okay, I feel like onion's like a spice, no?
Really?
I mean, I know it's a vegetable, but I'm never like, you're not having onion.
But, okay, so our calculation is top vegetables that you need in your life. Not necessarily insular, this one vegetable on a platter, give it to me now.
Okay. But I see. No. So we're talking about different qualifications.
Yes. Garlic. Yeah, for sure. Potatoes, obviously. I think next came into play, I think it was cucumber or carrot. I think they were tied. And eggplant.
Oh,
fuck. Cauliflower. Scratch one of the carrots. Whatever. Cauliflower.
Yeah. I think, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by putting onions and garlic on there. I feel like slightly change your parameters. Onion and garlic is a seasoning.
Fair.
You're never, like,
you're not like chomping down on one.
Mm-mm. So that's what I think. And then you have more space. So
I'll recalibrate.
Favorites?
Go.
Broccoli, honestly, cauliflower probably number one, actually.
Yeah.
Cauliflower, broccoli, asparagus.
Of course.
Those are 3. Mushrooms don't count because they're
gross.
not vegetables. Cauliflower, broccoli, asparagus. Yeah, cucumber is important. Cucumber is very important.
Lush.
Cabbage, dude. Actually, I fuck with cabbage. I take it back. Cabbage is my potato, I think. I love cabbage. Like, it's a lot.
It's surprisingly bland, but when you cook it correctly, it turns into this like buttery, almost caramel-like flavor.
Yeah.
It's so good. We had it last night.
Did you? Yeah. So it's like fresh in your mind. Yeah. In the spring for probably about 6 weeks, I made a large pot of various different cabbage soup and ate it all week for like 6 weeks. And just slightly different. Some were like wonton and some were like more like cabbage roll style or whatever.
Yeah, throw a bean in there.
I did not get sick of it and I actually miss it. So.
Well, you know what you're making for dinner tonight.
No, I'm not eating soup in this. Are you kidding
me? Never mind.
Absolute maniac.
Shall we dive in to this week's movie? Weren't we supposed to do someone sending in a movie and then we didn't do it? I just realized.
I was thinking about it last night.
Oops. Next episode.
Yeah, so here's the problem with recording ahead of time and how time works. In this dimension.
Linear? To a degree.
In this dimension, to a degree, linear. Yes. And, so unfortunately, so don't forget, we didn't forget fully. You guys don't forget, please. We are trying to start a new segment of the podcast where you send in a little write-up about one of your favorite movies.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like, that is great. And we would like to read it on the pod. We have not gotten any yet because we haven't
released this. Straight up, I did forget though.
We should maybe just make an Instagram post, just about it.
On it. I am on it.
Yeah. Before even.
It.
Anyway.
Okay. So.
Now that segment's done.
Easy peasy. Moving on.
Yeah.
This week we have watched the 2013, a little bit more recent in time, classic Pacific Rim.
Or as I like to call it, Pacific Tim.
Well, you have to tell the backstory now.
Oh, just that I had to rent it and, everything's it was Prob's account, so I texted him asking him to rent me Pacific Rim, but it autocorrected to Pacific Tim. And then he just texted me back and he said, Tim is ready. So,
and Tim is here. So we'll honor Tim now.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim is one of those movies that I know we chatted a little bit when we pulled the movie about how it's either a hit or miss. And I think it's across the board on the internet. It's a hit or miss movie. And I believe it's a hit, obviously, because it's in my hat, because you have to lean in hard to exactly what they're giving you and not expect, Oscar-worthy acting, first of all.
That acting though.
Oh, I cannot wait. But honestly, a kaiju movie is up there for one of my genres that I have to watch. I fuck with those movies so hard because there's just something so simple. It's very clear. And I know the most recent, Godzilla franchise is, playing around with this idea of, some of them are good guys and, they're on our human side of, defending the earth and whatnot. But
would you consider, King Kong to be in that genre? Because King Kong originally was a good guy.
So King Kong, funny enough, is a kaiju movie, yes. Because kaiju is essentially, it's the Japanese word for, large monster.
Yeah. Oh, well, I learned that last night at the beginning of the movie.
Thank you. That expletive.
I feel like the Peter Jackson King Kong is too long to do as a regular episode, but it is one of my all-time favorite movies, and maybe for, a special episode one day we could do it.
Absolutely. And yes, King Kong is definitely a good guy and innocent, and there are incredible racist undertones of the origins of the first King Kong. It was incredibly coded as, black men and fearing black men and the whole, like, stealing white women. And it's like very specific anti-black propaganda in the original.
It was like 1913 too, right? Yeah.
When racism was, obviously in this time. Don't chef's kiss. That was an ironic chef's kiss for the record. Like, racism bad, but in 1913, it was hot. It was all the rage. It was hot. Really.
Yeah.
Still is, but, different.
I think that completely makes sense to me. And of course that it was.
Of course.
Absolutely. But the 2006 one or whatever.
That was a good version. I
fucking
really
Jack
enjoyed
Black in a serious role.
Yeah.
Please.
So there's there's two recent ones. So
this is the wrong movie.
This is the wrong movie, but it's still a kaiju movie nonetheless. But the most recent one that's tied into the cinematic, universe of kaiju, with, I think Brie Larson was in it and Tom Hiddleston was in it. That was pretty good too, because I really enjoyed the characters, like, beyond the fact that Kong is in it, and there's a pretty robust world around, the origin and where it's going, but the characters were really cool too. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's not
back to
this movie.
Pacific Tim.
Pacific Tim is a 2013 American science fiction monster movie directed by Guillermo Del Toro.
Yes.
Which is, he is a really thoughtful horror, thriller, fantasy, science fiction. Like, he really likes the weird, right, Guillermo? Like, Pan's Labyrinth.
One of the best movies, I think, ever.
Yeah. We could go on and on about the filmography of this man.
Absolutely. He's for sure.
Good.
Thoughtful is a fantastic word to use, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's always giving you something that you haven't seen exactly before.
Yes.
Some things may be
sure. Always puts a spin.
Yeah.
And thoughtful too, in the sense that there's always these like little tidbits at the beginning and throughout the movie where he's kind of giving away the movie without you fully understanding that he's giving the full storyline in these subtle hints. Like, The Orphanage or L'Orfanato, incredible movie, horror, and he's giving little tidbits all throughout. Yeah. But he's also a hit and miss for a lot of people. Like, if you don't lean in to the weirdness of it, it's almost... This movie stars Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba, Rinko Kikuchi, Charlie Day, Robert Kaczynski, Max Martini, and Ron Perlman. Oh. And this is the
Q.
Yeah.
Do you think Ron Perlman's hot?
Only as Hellboy.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Only as Hellboy.
Holy fuck! Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a kid, though, when I first saw Hellboy, I was like,
why is he
hot though?
I'm really into it.
Too afraid to like bring it up, to ever like speak it. Yeah.
Not me.
Not in this.
This
is a safe space.
So Pacific Tim grossed $101 million in North America and has been had a favorable international release, grossing like $310 million in other countries for worldwide of like over $400 million. Which is money.
Do you know the budget? Do you have it there?
No, I did not get the budget.
I'm just curious. It must have been high.
I would imagine it's high because they've got some pretty high profile actors.
And the fucking CGI.
The CGI budget is
crazy.
Like, this whole movie was filmed on a green screen. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
there's no way. So this movie, like I said, hit and miss. It's got a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 77% audience score.
That's high though.
For like
Rotten
a hit
Tomatoes,
and miss.
Yeah.
Yep. And love kaiju movies, like I said, because there's something so fantastically dumb about these larger than life monsters and us tiny puny humans trying to figure out how to fight them. Like, I think it's literally fucking hilarious.
Us destroying an anthill.
Yeah.
And the ants fucking fighting back.
Yeah.
Actually, that's terrifying to think about. I don't want to think about that.
Okay, zoom back in.
Way more ants on Earth than there are humans, right?
Oh, and they are smart. I read an article recently that ants are the only other known species right now who do surgical procedures on their fellow ant.
And they are so strong.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Different movie. Are we writing a movie right now?
We're writing that movie right now.
The budget appears to be $180 million USD.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Oh wait, and then there's another one that says $411 million USD. Google, make up your mind. I don't really know what you want.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, it earned. God, Google.
So it was 100 and something, and it earned 400 something altogether.
Yeah.
So that's good.
That's balanced out. But back to this idea of why I really liked this movie, it's dumb. And I think it speaks to a very deep part of me who loved, Power Rangers and, those collaborative movies where people get together to solve a big bad, right? Yeah. And it's not rocket science. It's not Oscar worthy by any means. Well, we'll see. But I think it's pure flat entertainment. And, the recent Godzilla franchise is interesting. And I'm not expecting anything dramatic, but Godzilla -1 is the origin story for the Godzilla. And it was fucking great.
You know what?
So good.
You know what happened? So I wanted to watch that. And when my dad was here, when I went to D&D, him and Prob fucking ordered pizza and watched that movie without me. I got home, there was 15 minutes left.
Did you burn the house down?
Almost. I was like, are you guys fucking kidding me?
Side note, that is quite sweet that
they did ordered pizza and watched a movie together.
That's quite sweet.
No, I know. Actually,
you could be mad, but also like, adorable.
Yeah. And then I come in and I'm just like, well, your punishment is me asking a bunch of questions and ruining the last
15 minutes. Yes. So, shall we get into it? Well, I want to know actually, you said you had an experience with this movie right away.
I had seen it and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And then when I was watching it last night, as soon as it was I was like, oh yeah, I fuck with this movie.
I get it.
Right away.
Yeah.
Right away. I think the issue at the time was that I was too stoned.
Oh, I think fair.
When I tried to watch it before, cause I remember it just being like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on.
It's a long movie.
It was a lot too. Yeah. Like the 30-minute fucking fight scene in the middle and like whatever. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Also, we had ordered sushi, and I was dialed into that sushi. We ordered a fuckload of sushi.
Your attention was
like,
split?
Yeah. So, cause instantly watching it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. Also, I have been thinking about this since last night. Cause when we saw it and then we were like, oh yeah, this is a movie where you're gonna have to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
Last week's movie was about a talking dog. Bent on destroying the world.
Don't you mean a historical documentation?
So I just like, I thought about that as I was watching. I was like, literally, what the fuck were we even talking about?
Yeah.
Because last week's movie was equally as unbelievable.
Oh, yes. I think, suspending your disbelief, leaning in, recognizing camp for what it is, and just like,
it is campy.
It's for sure.
Also,
beautiful.
Charlie Day in that role.
Perfect.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's very funny. Sometimes you're like, can you cool it?
Yeah, settle.
Right? Like the voice, like the screaming.
Oh, the pitch?
Like he gets so riled up, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny and it's like kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's too much. In this situation, it was incredible.
It was instrumental, actually.
Was.
In order to the plot to keep going along.
Did you ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Okay, so you know John Ralphio?
Yes.
Ben Schwartz, is that his name? The other thing I want to say right before, you know the guy who's like running the stuff that he's got like the Elvis hair and whatever?
Yes.
I wanted him to be Ben Schwartz.
Yes. I agree.
I think that
would have worked.
Yeah, it would have worked.
But
other than that, I'm ready to get into it.
Let's get into it. Yeah. Okay, so the movie opens with, like Dakota said, this digital looking green text come up on the screen, and it defines the movie's two major character types. So we have the kaiju, which is the Japanese word for giant beast, and Jäger, which is the German word for hunter. So straight out of the gate, we have a very simple explanation that it's this guy versus this guy. And the narrator's voice describes the location of this, what's called the breach underneath the ocean. And they really emphasize that, like, we really thought the danger was going to come from the sky. We thought space and aliens.
His narration when he's doing it too.
Oh.
When I was growing up.
And
I felt small and alone, I'd look up at the sky.
Oh, damn.
Like
word for word.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, pretty much, yeah. Because as he was doing it, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, roll your eyes, but then roll them back because I'm into it.
Yeah.
And so they really feared this, oncoming threat from the sky, but really underneath the ocean is where it was coming from.
Which is fucking honestly legit though, because we've talked about this. Yeah. We don't know shit about what's going on down there.
There is so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
And another genre that you and I love is like the shark genre.
The amount of like water stuff that was going on in this, Hell yeah.
Yeah. Underwater fights. I think Ty and I had said while watching this, the fact that they crammed in a full-on kaiju Jaeger fight in space, as well as under the ocean, you know this movie's a fucking banger when they hit those two extremes.
Yeah.
So the narrator, who we find out later is the main character, but he was 15 years old when the first kaiju hit San Francisco. They didn't see it coming, and the military struggled for approximately like 6 whole days, and everything they could fucking fire at this thing. And it's like, goes to show they had no fucking clue how to take this thing down right away, and a lot of people died. You know, there was this memorial.
I think it's
never
that
again.
It fully destroyed like 3 cities, like on its way down to San Diego or something like that, right?
And these things are monstrous, obviously, but they're huge.
They're huge. Like, you cannot understand the scale of them. They're fucking huge.
And they are scary. And they are
gonna be huge.
The simultaneous hand gesture at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like we gotta, someday if we get any sort of budget, You'll gonna need to film
see us in action.
There's a lot of risk. a lot of risk action.
Okay. So in those early days, they were not prepared for anything like this, and you know, I think there was like some humility in this early narration of like, the USA military is the best in the world, but it took them 6 days to take this big fucker down. We had no idea what was coming, because they basically thought this was a one-off. They did memorials, they did the never again.
Wow, we did it.
Wasn't that bad? Let's move on. Yeah. But 6 months later, the second attack hit, and then the third, and then the fourth. So essentially, this is not gonna stop, and it's really just the beginning. And at this point, we see that these kaiju attacks are happening all over the world. So the world leaders essentially came together and were like, okay guys, I know we've been on bad terms with each other for a really long time, but let's get together, let's pool our resources, let's put, bygones be bygones. And they pooled all of the resources and money to make these giant Power Rangers. And when I say giant, we're talking about something equal to fight these kaiju, right?
Even though they kind of feel like they're still a little smaller than the kaiju, though.
A little bit, right?
A little smaller, yeah.
And we'll get into it later, but essentially each kaiju is another leveled up version of itself. So the first one was just stomping around and chomping. And then like the next one maybe had like this laser power coming out of its butt or its mouth or something. And then, oh my god, the tail has like chompy claws on it.
Yeah, and they're all like, some of them kind of look like aquatic animals. Some of them kind of look like bugs. Some of them can fly. Like some of them are... Yeah, it was like a like 1, 2, 3, and through time they just level up and level up and level up. And their Jaeger things. Yeah. What are they called that they go inside?
The head?
The things that they made, though? What are those called? You just said it. Like the machines that they go inside? That they built?
Jaegers.
Oh, I thought the people were called Jaegers.
No, they're pilots. The Jaeger itself is the...
Okay, yeah. So those things also through time they had to get, like, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Like,
so we'll use language in the rest of the podcast, but essentially kaijus go up in levels as Cat 1, Cat 2, Category 3, kind of like earthquakes, whereas the Jaegers are leveling up by Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3. And so the... kind of like back to this idea of like everybody pooling all of this money and resources together, and it's like, wow, look what we can do when we're all working together, first of all. And these Jaegers had this really interesting what's the word I'm looking for? It's a program, let's say, called the neural drift or the neural handshake, where these massive machines were too much for one person to pilot alone, because they showed all of these like testing images of like people's brains oozing out of their eyeballs. Because of science. Thank you. Yeah. And this is the beauty of this movie. We don't need realistic science. I just need you to basically explain one person bad, 2 people good to pilot it. So one person takes the left hemisphere, the other person takes the right hemisphere, and basically they're puppeteering this Jaeger from the inside through this neural scientific drift thing, which I think is fucking cool. At first, these Jaegers were very effective, and it was a big deal. And these Jaeger pilots became celebrities because they're essentially defending the earth from these massive creatures that are just destroying everything. So it's like they got really good at it. They got really good at it fast. So like Mach 1s, Mach 2s, a really big monster came through the breach, which was like the first biggest category yet, like the Cat 3 in 2020, which is surreal. Now watching back at this movie. And we're introduced to now 2 brothers who are stationed in Alaska, and they are both Jaeger pilots. And we get to see them get woken up by these alarms happening in their base.
Have you ever called your younger sister kid? Or doesn't he call him kid?
Oh, it is so over the top.
Weird.
Yo, kid. Yo, bro.
Come on, kid. It's like you instantly know, spoiler alert, that the brother's gonna die.
Oh, hardcore.
Because of just purely the way that he's speaking to him in such a weirdly nostalgic way.
Yeah,
like,
already.
while he's alive. Yeah.
100%.
It's like, and it's also like they work together. Like they've been fighting together.
Yes.
Why are you talking to him like you have so much more experience than him, and like,
because he's the big brother.
Don't get ahead of yourself, kid.
Slow down, brother.
Yeah,
but
it's just I was like, I thought it was his dad at first.
Yeah,
and then I was like, what is that? Yeah, it is intentional.
It's so intentional.
It's so much.
And we eventually also get to see that like the pilots who are able to drift with each other have to be close, and the stronger the bond, the stronger the Jaeger, right? So one brother, who's the younger brother, is jumping out of bed, fucking horny to fight these kaijus. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the older brother's like, slow down there, kid. We gotta eat breakfast or something shit like that. What time is it? He's mid-sleepies. And his name is Yancey.
Yancey. That's like, the only other time I've ever heard that is in Futurama.
Oh, yes.
Isn't Fry's brother's name is Yancey?
Yancey, yeah. So Yancey is the older brother, and Raleigh is Rayleigh or Raleigh. I'm going to call him Raleigh.
Raleigh probably like after, Raleigh.
Down South?
Well, which is after Raleigh from England, who...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, never mind. We'll cut this.
We'll get into it off the pod.
Historical bad guy.
Oh.
That is like celebrated, but
interesting.
It's very bad.
Oh, okay.
Colonizer.
I was about to say, I was like, I really like the name, but
colonizer.
Not anymore. Okay.
Big colonizer.
I'll just give it a pause. So
Walter Raleigh. There we go. Sorry. I had to remember the first name.
Walter.
Sorry. Walter. Yeah.
Okay. Yancey is the older brother, and Raleigh is the younger brother, and they are the Beckett brothers. And they were never star athletes. They were never top of the class. But because they were so fucking close, the neural link was almost instantaneous, and they were drift compatible. And like I said, the stronger the bond, the stronger the Jaeger. So we get a series of shots of this massive machine coming online and, in this big ass like hangar warehouse piece, and they're getting locked and loaded for piloting these things. And like I said, they're literally like locked into place almost in this head of the Jaeger, and this massive metallic head gets lowered into this massive, robot body. In the command room, we're introduced to Tando, the computer guy, and Marshall Stacker Pentecost leading the defensive attack, and he's the guy in charge, played by Idris Elba and the guy who looks like Elvis. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
So, as the giant head with the pilots are locked in, we get a glimpse of how big these machines are, and they've clearly stepped up their defenses since the Mach 1s, because these are the ultimate Power Rangers. It's got like a massive cannon gun, and this massive, nuclear
like
heart vent coming out. It's like, it looks insane. It's over the top. So the Jaeger is lowered in the ocean, and now they're getting the countdown to start the neural drift.
Okay, can I just say, in this whole movie, the most unbelievable part of this movie is that those giant machines are being carried by like four fucking helicopters. Whatever. I'm watching it, I was like, this is the most unbelievable thing. There's no way.
No, absolutely not. This is where I will draw the line.
This is where I draw
Physics.
the line. Yeah. There's no way.
No way. And it's quite silly because like these helicopters like pick them up and drop them off in the ocean. And also, a classic complaint with the kaiju movies is like, how are these giant creatures just fighting in the middle of the ocean? Isn't the ocean like incredibly deep?
Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. So they go through the neural drift with each other, and it's called a neural handshake. And the neural handshake is when you kind of blend your consciousness in with the other person's consciousness to make one brain, the Jaeger brain. They are acting kind of like, this is no big deal. We've done this before, we can do it again. Gung ho, let's get at it. And the marshal from the command room kind of like wires into the Jaeger and it's like, okay, there's a civilian boat out there, a fisherman boat. Don't bother with it. Just focus on the kaijus. So now we get a shot of this giant robot walking through the ocean, just like, doo, 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 going to get the alien. As it's on its way, we see the fisherman boat not only caught in a massive ice storm, but there's a giant monster coming to eat it as well. And this baddie has like multiple limbs. It's swimming around with 6 limbs. And it's got like a massive swordfish kind of face. I think it's called Knife Head in the movie. And the Jaeger arrives just in time to like pick up, like
People
scoop up the
so
boat.
creative.
So creative. So they're already going off script, and it's kind of a thing actually that these boys are good at what they do, but
they're rebellious for sure.
Yeah.
They don't follow the rules.
They don't follow the rules.
Even like, not Yancey, Raleigh had said like while he was narrating before, like he's like, growing up, you'd never think that we would be heroes because we weren't good at school.
Yeah.
We weren't
Athletes.
top athletes.
Yeah.
Like we just fought a lot.
Yeah.
We could hold our own in a fight.
Yeah, they're brutes.
So it's like totally.
Yeah. The Knife Head starts the fistfights of all fistfights in the middle of the ocean. So they're in like off the Alaskan coast, and they are pushing, they are chomping, they are punching. And obviously there's going to be many parts of this podcast where I'm like, and then they fight, because I'm not going to go into left hook and right hook and whatnot. But there's a massive laser gun that shoots the sucker backwards from the Jaeger, and they think it's down. But Gypsy Danger, which is the name of the Jaeger, is informed that the kaiju is in fact still alive, and he comes out of nowhere and smacks the shit out of the Jaeger and stabs the Jaeger with his big ass knife head, and it's not looking good for our brothers whatsoever. And the damage done to the machine is also damaging the pilots. So we're seeing not only are they neurally linked together, they're neurally linked to what damage is done to the Jaeger. They also kind of feel as well.
Yeah, it's not like his arm also gets ripped off. But
no,
like,
but he's like,
my arm. He is injured.
Yeah, he's injured. So the older brother, Yancey, gets grabbed out of the Jaeger head by the kaiju, and Raleigh just watches his brother die, and while still trying to take this big guy down.
It's not even like watches him die. It is
he
like
feels
it's
it.
instant, and he feels it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Raleigh in his last ditch attempt manages to like load the big laser cannon again to blow this guy to bits. And so we then flash back to command, and they're freaking out because they're like, this was our best guy. Like, this was our best Jaeger, and no signals are coming back to let them know that the Jaeger is still functional, let alone if those guys are still alive. So they're freaking out. Eventually, the scene changes to this grandpa and grandson or father-son duo. I'm not quite sure, but they're metal detecting on
the top of the planet, the top of the earth,
like straight up,
literally.
What are you looking to find?
Yeah.
And so they're on these like frozen
Arctic
beaches trying to find something. And this giant machine walks onto the shore and collapses. And they rush over to find Raleigh like crawling out of the head of the Jaeger. And he's obviously still alive, but he is not looking good. He's bleeding. He's disoriented. And obviously kind of still in shock.
He's in fucking major shock.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the opening title credits open. So the exposition of this movie is simple. We get one big fight scene, and then we kind of like dive in now to present day.
Now it's like 5 years later or something? Yeah.
So the narrator voice tells us that the kaiju are evolving more and more. Each category is coming in bigger and better with new, like, I don't know, offensive, I don't know, chomping and slashing and laser.
There's just, they can't anticipate
anything,
right? I think that's a big thing, is that there are variables and they're getting stronger.
Yeah.
So it's like, some of them shoot poison, some of them can fly, some of them, but they're getting more powerful, and there's that random factor.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're coming in more frequently.
Yeah.
Which means that the human beings can't really keep up with the amount of damage that they do, as well as the amount of damage done to the Jaegers in the process, because that was just, like, the opening scene was really just an example of how we're struggling to match their level of evolution. But 5 years later, we're kind of in that command room again, where the Marshal is like talking to all the world leaders, and the world leaders are basically like, we're running out of resources. We are going to direct all of our efforts to building the wall, which is fucking hilarious. Build that wall.
Yeah. And we're going to get them to build it for us.
Yeah. But basically this giant Zoom gallery wall of world leaders are telling the Marshal, we're pulling your funding in 8 months. We're just going to keep funding the ones that are working and, channel a lot of our efforts to building the wall. along the coast. And they basically instruct him to get all of the Jaegers to Hong Kong to decommission them. And all of the other efforts, like I said, are going elsewhere. So the Marshal is pissed because he's like, that Idris Elba kind of way of being like, they don't understand. We can evolve too. Like, don't cancel my program.
He's really handsome.
He is a tall glass of something, and it's the British accent along with that dark, broody kind of like, I'm gonna get them kind of vibe. Yeah. I love it. But anyways, we flash to another part of Alaska.
That big gulp that you just did after that. Are you okay, girl?
I might need a moment.
You kind of got lost in thought there for a second.
It's dark, broody British that gets me. Yeah. It like speaks to a deep part of my soul.
His acting is fucking crazy in this movie, though.
It's so wild. Serious. Everybody is so serious in this movie.
In this situation, like in this movie, you know, it's just like, yeah, he's a professional.
And he doesn't like, he knows the kaiju very intimately.
And he has secrets. Like, he's got a past.
He's got secrets.
Yeah.
Which will slowly unfold for us throughout the movie. Flash to another part of Alaska where we see a bunch of construction happening. It's the wall. And we find how dangerous it is to be on the wall.
Good news and bad news.
Yeah. The wall is, not a great place to be, but it's, for a lot of people, it's like, this is as much as we can do. Like, this is, we want to contribute, we want to help, we also want to get paid. And we see that our old pal Raleigh is one of those construction workers working on the wall. We see in the break room after, you know, a long hard morning, like working on the wall, that not only have people like died the day prior and it's kind of grim, but on like the lunch, like the break room TV, we're getting a newscast coming in and it's footage of the Australian Jaeger taking down a kaiju. But at first they have like this entire footage of the kaiju just walking through the wall. No big deal. Just like, boop. Yeah. And there's like a lot of, you know, rigmarole happening in the lunchroom because they're like, why the fuck are we even here then?
Also,
if they're
like
just gonna
3 people died today or yesterday.
Exactly.
Doing this.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a good idea or a good use of our resources. So the newscaster then flashes footage of the Australian Jaeger pilot, taking him down, and this pilot is kind of cocky and bragging about how many kaiju he's killed, and you know he's gonna come back into play.
What's his name?
I don't know, I called him Cocky Ozzy.
Him and the main character, Raleigh, look almost the same.
Identical.
They look so similar.
Yeah.
That it was a bit of a struggle for me at times.
One is Australian, and one is painfully putting on an American accent, because I think he's actually British.
Is he? I don't know.
Charlie Hunnam might be British.
I don't know.
But I agree, they are identical. But in the midst of all this, we hear a helicopter land, and Raleigh goes out, because the Marshal is come to ask Raleigh about coming to back be a pilot again. And an old Mach 3 is available for him to come back and pilot, and all of the other Mach 3 pilots are dead, so he's kind of the last-ditch effort for basically maneuvering this mission. And Raleigh kind of goes...
And the machines themselves, are also past Mach 3 at this point.
Yes.
They've passed it, and they're, like, so it's an older machine as well.
Yes.
So that, like, he's familiar with, and he's the last one. Just to...
Absolutely. You know. But essentially, it's like... He's the only one that can pilot these older machines. I think he calls them analog at one point.
Yeah.
And, which I don't understand, and we'll get into it later. But
absolutely not analog.
There's definitely some shit going on in there that's not analog.
Yeah.
I can't go back, he says. I was still neurally connected to my brother when he died. Clearly this man has PTSD.
That is a fucking huge trauma.
That's huge.
Incredible. Of course he doesn't want to go back. Like, duh.
Yeah. And he was really fucked up in that process. Like, he is probably still, you know, nursing some injuries from that.
Something about this movie is there's so many scenes where it's just two people talking and they're fucking shouting at each other. Like,
yes, it's so intense.
It's so funny. So the way that fucking Idris Elba screams at him
in this, you've got to do it.
You're literally 5 feet away from each other. Like, it's not.
You can turn the helicopter off if you want to talk to me.
It's so crazy,
sir.
There are so many moments where I was like, why are they shouting right now?
And like angry.
The fuck?
It's like they haven't seen each other for like 5 years, and he's like, Bucket, you better be on the pilot of the Jaeger.
But it does kind of make sense what he says, right? He's like, it is the end of the world. Do you want to die here or do you want to die in there?
Doing something about it. And that's
so fair.
That totally speaks to, you know, a bit of this like good guy hero complex that Raleigh has. And basically he says yes. Mm-hmm. So we see this high-tech helicopter land eventually at these massive docks in the crushing waves of the coastal Hong Kong, which is where, like I said, all of the Jaegers are getting kind of like decommissioned. But secretively, the Marshal is actually not decommissioning. He's amping up for the last-ditch effort before the funding fully gets cut in 8 months.
Yes.
So, we are introduced to Mako. Fuck.
Honestly, though, that's how most of them say it the whole time, and it's so bad. Like, it's not pretty.
It's not it, and I'm guilty of it now too. Mako Mori, and she's in charge of the Mach 3 restoration program. So this person knows her shit. She is incredibly intelligent. She's got a lot of research under her belt related to this, and she is in charge of finding a co-pilot, for Raleigh to link with in that neurodrift to pilot that Mach 3. So as they enter in the base, 2 people rush onto the elevator and we are introduced to the research team. So we have Herman and Newt. They have other like formal names, but I'm just going to call them Herman and Newt. And we get a fun look into their dynamic. So it's a bit of that like bumbling scientist.
Oh yeah.
Genius at work.
It's Professor Honeydew and Beaker.
Yes, like, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And
1,000,000% actually couldn't be more accurate. The German guy or whatever, wherever he's from, that's Professor Honeydew. And Charlie Day is Beaker.
100%.
Fight me.
I will not.
No,
I
not
agree.
You,
yeah.
you know.
We are introduced to these characters. They're obviously geniuses in their respective field. One looks like he's like a mathematician.
One looks like a young Willem Dafoe. Is that what you're going to say?
Sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but I agree. And then the other one is more of a kaiju biologist. So they're experts in their field, and Charlie Day's character is covered in kaiju tattoos, and he's a bit of a stan. He loves kaijus.
He's super, super interested in stuff, but it's also that like, yeah, they're kind of saying there's some points where it's like, cause he's like, I would love to be up close. And he's like, no, you fucking don't want to.
No.
Where it's like, he's so fascinated and obsessed, but he has pieces to study and stuff, but he is lacking that like real world understanding of like, no, this kills people. Like this is so destructive. This is not something to celebrate.
Yeah. It's kind of that like, Hammond from Jurassic Park vibe where he's so obsessed with them that he doesn't fully see how fucking dangerous and lethal these things are.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, Raleigh's like, oh yeah, I fought that guy who's the tattoo on his arm.
Which is so fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, and he took out a lot of people. Like, he killed a lot of people. So it's this weird fascination, but also kind of like this detached celebrity romanticized version of kaiju.
Is it like how people are fans of like Jeffrey Dahmer and shit?
Oh, God.
It's like
sick, twisted obsession. And
it's like there's a difference between being interested in true crime and like
doing an Instagram edit of like Jeffrey Dahmer being like, oh, he's so misunderstood. No,
he's fucking not.
Yeah.
Also, so the two scientists, like their dynamic too is very much like obviously they're kind of best friends. Like it's like love-hate relationship.
Oh yeah.
But they're constantly after each other about like not like respecting each other's way of doing things. But they do work together and they do like, there is like love and respect there, but it's like they're just constantly bickering.
Oh, they're always fighting.
Yeah,
I agree. This massive shot of them coming out of the elevator and entering this massive hangar, right? Like this warehouse, and it's huge because it's housing for Jaegers.
Yeah.
So this is the last ditch effort, like I said. So a lot of countries are bringing in their Jaegers. So we are introduced to the Russian team.
Which are hilariously like bottle blonde caricatures.
Stereotype. Yeah. And even their Jaeger kind of looks like Russian. Like it's got that like,
it's like
hardcore Cold War vibe to it, right?
Yes, it's absolutely,
We have the Chinese team or the Hong Kong team with triplets. Matching jumpsuits, and they're triplets. So there's 3 of them actually in the Jaeger piloting it, and they've got like 3 arms as well. And
where's the 3rd arm?
We don't know. We don't
that was
know.
Under the water.
Yeah, under the water. And we have the Australian team. So this is the cocky pilot from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
The Russians
and his dad.
Yes, so sorry.
And can I just say, imagine fucking neurolinking with your dad.
I don't want to.
No, that is awful.
No, thank you.
That is a fucking bad deal.
No. Family reunions and family dinner nights are not the same.
No wonder that kid has fucking daddy issues, for real. He's seen some shit.
So, Dakota, you have just like opened up my mind because I hate this guy so much, and now I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'd be a dick too.
You would have some fucking behavioral issues.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So the plan is that the Russians have brought in a massive explosive dynamite to strap onto one of the Jaegers to, essentially have them drop this bomb in the breach.
Yes.
And Raleigh will be piloting the bomb one, while the other Jaegers are holding defense. So they're basically planning on bombing the breach, but that doesn't quite make sense because they've tried to do it before, but this time they have a plan. They have a little bit more information on the portal, or like the interdimensional portal between worlds that we'll get into in a minute.
Thanks to math.
Yeah. And, science fiction.
Science.
So one of the science guy, Herman, shares the math on the predictions of when the next kaiju is coming, while Newt is directing, everybody to kind of like take a look at this giant brain chunk of kaiju. And he's going on about, well, my theory says we should, neurally link with the brain chunk. And Herman's all about, no, we need to know about how many more are coming. Like,
which is like, okay, Herman, more are coming.
Yeah.
3, 4, like more are coming.
I appreciate.
He's got walls of chalkboard. Huge chalkboards full of fucking equations.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think you need a mathematician to tell you
that
over the last 8 years, the rate that they are coming is increasing. Like, what are you doing?
And also, what's wrong with doing both? Like, can we not have both? Like, you can do your math and then you can do your biology? What's wrong here?
So silly.
So, Newt explains that the kaiju aren't actually individually different creatures. They are clones of one another because they share the DNA. He shares that he wants to do a neural link with a floating chunk of brain to find out more information about the tax. And the marshal says, no, that's too science fiction. Let's go with the math guy instead. And Raleigh is then shown his old Jaeger, Gypsy Danger, that has been, souped up a little bit since the last time he used it, with new engines, new, cores, and, other science fiction language. So as Mako is taking Raleigh to his quarters, Mako explains that she really wants to be a pilot too.
More than anything.
And we get a little glimpse here of she's got some, revenge here. Like something there. It's not just about being a pilot. She's got a personal reason to do it.
There's a vendetta.
Yeah. He asks her if she's in the running for the choice for co-pilot, and she explains she's not the first choice of the mission because, let me explain. She says that he is not her first choice for the mission.
Hell yeah, Mako.
Because he's unpredictable. He doesn't follow the plan, and she doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, but I'm amazing. Why?
And they have this dynamic too where sometimes she's like, we don't have to do everything they say, and you don't have to just follow the rules. And she's like, it's about respect.
Or it's not logic.
You know what I mean? But he's like, why do you just do everything? And she's like, it's literally like, I know my place, and I'm trusting that it's for my safety and for the better for, like, you know what I mean? She's like, it's a respect thing as well. Like, you don't fucking own this place. Like, what?
So maybe follow your directions?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Raleigh is one of those characters that flies off the seat of his pants, makes decisions on the fly, and maybe they work out, and maybe sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's saying is that at this moment in time, with all of the things that are on the line, his unpredictable behavior is not conducive to a win, is what she's saying.
Yeah, and she's right.
Yeah. Later on, Mako tells the marshal that she wants to be his co-pilot, even though she disagrees with his, perspectives on rules. But he's like, absolutely not. Marshal says, hard no.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all we get for that for now. So there's a lot of like lunchrooms in this movie, actually. There's a lot of like break rooms.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of like people wearing matching tracksuits. I was like, I swear to God, in the background of one scene, I saw a whole basketball team. I'm not joking.
I think those are the pilots. Those are the pilots from Hong Kong. They're just hanging out playing basketball, no big deal. So in the lunchroom, an older Australian guy invites Raleigh to sit with him and his son. So it's the cocky guy from the news, and they're the pilots of the Jaeger from Australia. And oh boy, I can't recall this guy's name, so I'm still just going to call him cocky Aussie guy, is not Raleigh's friend. He is shit-talking the crap out of him. He calls him dead weight and storms off.
He's hateful.
He's hateful.
So hateful.
For no particular reason.
It's pretty
really.
wild. It's,
toxic masculinity, right? So, we now flash to the trials of, basically auditioning to be Raleigh's co-pilot. And, one after the other, Raleigh is kicking butts. And essentially, the way to figure out if they're good co-pilots is whether or not they can keep up with each other in a stick fight. It's like, I don't quite understand this, but you go off. Sure, it works. And Mako and the Marshal are kind of like watching with their clipboards, like making notes, being like, ugh, not this one, not that one. And Mako kind of Raleigh stops and he's like, you're making a face every time I do it. And she's basically saying, you could have taken those guys out 2 moves earlier.
Yeah.
And she's not impressed by this guy. And I think Raleigh is taken aback because usually everyone's impressed by him. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of curious and he's like, you fight me then.
Which is such a weird reaction.
Yeah.
Like, such a weird response, but
I'll go with it. And, Raleigh tells her that he's not gonna go easy on her. And Mako goes, I won't either then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go off, girl. Okay. So Mako is very good. And it appears that they are evenly matched until Mako beats him. And
it gets a little sexy too.
It is a little sexual.
They're like rolling around. This is foreplay.
This is foreplay. This is building of the tension. And throughout this entire movie, we are kind of questioning, is this romantic? Is this sexual? Or is this like just a mutual kind of like, I don't know, there's like
sometimes you just click with people you connect,
chemistry, right? And that's perfect because
but there was a lot of crotches and faces in the end of this.
Oh yeah. This was a gratuitous,
they
body.
Were basically scissoring. Yeah.
With 2 sticks, which is quite fun. Let's see, where was it? Okay, so Mako is basically like, it's very clear that I should be Raleigh's co-pilot. And even Raleigh's like, she's the one. Out of all of these people who have auditioned for me, I'm pretty sure it's not audition.
I love
the
it.
word I'm thinking
of.
I love it. But the Marshal still refuses. And at this point, you're kind of like,
no.
Why? Why is the Marshal? Because why? Because you know what? You have this big ass mission, and wouldn't you want?
She's the best for the job, and all she wants is to be a pilot, and she works so hard. Why are you holding her back?
It doesn't quite make sense. And so obviously we're not getting all the information here. In the hallway as everyone's leaving.
It's also kind of like pretty obvious at this point.
It's personal. Yeah. Like there's a personal component to it.
Yeah. It's like he cares about her and doesn't want her to be in danger. That's why.
Exactly. So in the hallway outside of the arena, Raleigh tells Mako that she should be pilot, because they have the chemistry, they're drift compatible, and she says she can't join him because out of respect for the Marshal's decision.
See?
Beckett doesn't get it. Okay. Flash to Newt proceeding to conduct experiments with the kaiju, which he didn't quite get the green light for, but Newt is
he's a renegade.
He's a renegade. He doesn't follow the rules. So he is hooking up a machine that's connected with the brain chunk, and it fucking works, which I love this level of science fiction. So in this neural drift, like I've said before, in the neural drift, we kind of like share memories and consciousness with the 2 people who are connected.
And we're seeing, it's being presented to us as like flashes of this, but they are having a deeper understanding than just the visual of seeing flashes. Like they're feeling it.
They are in the other person's shoes, essentially. It's empathy on, times 100.
Steroids?
Oh. Steroids. Yeah, sure. And in this neural drift, we see, from this kaiju's point of view, we see, this massive world of kaiju lining up and going through portals. Big baddies are being constructed. And we also see that there are these like other smaller creatures kind of in charge that don't come through the drift, but they're sending the kaiju through.
They look kind of like praying mantises.
They do.
They're aliens.
They are aliens. So he kind of goes, oh, that's not good. I've got to share this info.
Yeah.
But we flash to Raleigh as he's setting up to lock and load into the Jaeger, where actually Mako greets him in the head and says that he's going to be the co-pilot.
Yeah, cause like when, Idris Elba left, he was like, don't complain. You're gonna see, I've already made my decision. You're gonna see who your co-pilot is tomorrow or whatever. And then it's her.
Yeah.
So it's
like a lot of fuss for a whole lot of nothing, but
I think he just loves the drama.
Idris Elba,
I think it might have
thirsty for drama.
I think it also might have just been like him having to like, he has to assert that he is in charge here and he is in control, even though he knows that it's the right decision. He can't just let him get his way.
Yeah.
In this situation, it has to be shown that it was his decision, which is a lot, but it also makes sense in this situation.
Oh, in the context, absolutely. Yeah. But it's a good hard look at the military itself and like how that like hierarchy goes to show you don't have to say in anything unless you have those 4 stars on your shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. That's just my brief understanding of the military.
Sounds right.
Sounds right. So he's like, hey girl. And they kind of get locked and loaded. He explains how the drift's gonna work, like she doesn't fucking know already, but we don't need to go into that.
Whatever.
But boom, they are ready to go, and right before they are set to kind of like launch into the ocean, the scientists run into the command room and say, Newt has successfully linked with the kaiju. We have so much more information to tell you. Don't launch just yet. And they tell them that the kaiju are attacking under orders or some from the masters, who are colonizers that take over worlds, you know, systematically. And they have been waiting here actually underneath since the dinosaurs.
This is also the part that I have a hard time believing, because the dinosaurs were way fucking smaller than those things. Way smaller.
So they explained that the atmosphere at the time was not conducive to how the kaiju could survive, but over the course of time and how much we've polluted the environment, it became like a perfect breeding spot for...
Basically terraformed it for them. But, so is that why the dinosaurs were so much smaller? Like, that doesn't make sense to me still. That still doesn't make sense to me.
What do you mean by the dinosaurs were small?
Have you seen how fucking big the kaijus are?
Yeah.
Dinosaurs were not that big.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So how is it that the dinosaurs were kaijus?
No, they weren't kaijus. They were just saying that at the time, the atmosphere when the dinosaurs were around was not conducive. They tried to come through, but they couldn't because they were like, oh, I'm choking on the oxygen.
I thought they were saying that the dinosaurs were kaijus. No. And I was like, what the fuck?
Okay, even a T-Rex would probably try and put up a good fight.
No. Big enough.
No.
Yeah, okay.
It's just chemically the environment was not conducive to them making it through the breach. It's basically like if we went to another planet and it was only CO2,
then how
we would
did
die.
They know? Oh, because he was in the brain. I'm like, then how do we even know that they tried?
The drift!
The drift.
Okay. It's important to know. Yeah. Okay. But since we've destroyed our environment, we've made the perfect terraformed, platform for these baddies to come through and destroy us. So the Marshal tells him that he has to link again to find out more. And again, we get this little look at he is thirsty to take these fuckers down. And even though Charlie's Day character was like, I don't feel so good, he's like, you're going in again. Mm-hmm. You opened a box and you gotta keep going. So he tells him to find this, infamous black market guy, Hannibal Chow, who operates basically in kaiju parts. He sells and deals and, black market this, black market that.
And he said, like, when they lost their funding, he gave Hannibal Chow exclusive rights to the kaiju bodies, and that's how they're being funded.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Good catch. Back in the drift with the two pilots, Mako and Raleigh, they're both kind of stuck in their own traumatic memories, because the drift again is just kind of going through each other's brains. And if you have a pretty traumatic memory, and this is true, it's going to be a fragmented fractal kind of thing where it's very easy to kind of get like stuck in that spot. But the thing is that they're getting stuck in each other's traumatic memories. So Raleigh's traumatic memory is obviously losing his brother in the drift, and we get to see that Mako's traumatic memory is when she was orphaned in a kaiju attack in the city when she was a kid. And that scene of that little kid wailing down that empty street breaks my fucking heart. It's so, I get goosebumps just even thinking about it, because it's so deeply, deeply emotional, and she's lost, and she's looking up into this, empty city with skyscrapers, and this kaiju, this massive crab thing is like, I'm gonna eat you. And so she starts running. And Raleigh is in that memory as himself, watching this happen and like trying to help her wake up, like trying to talk to this little kid.
Because they had said too, like, when you drift, like, you have to just let it kind of wash over you. You
don't
can't
get stuck.
Hang on, or try to like see more of a memory or get stuck in it, because it like
you get stuck there.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Don't chase the rabbit. And so in this nightmare memory, she's holding her hands up to kind of like protect herself from the kaiju, because it's like attempting to attack her. But in real life, she's holding her hands up too, and that hand has the fucking laser cannon on it. And everyone's like, evacuate, get out!
She's like
aiming it right at the command center.
Yeah.
And back in the memory, Mako is saved by a Jaeger pilot who's actually piloted by the Marshal himself. That's their backstory.
Yeah.
And that's how they know each other. But eventually, Mako is able to kind of like break herself out of this memory trance and not, launch this massive nuclear bomb in the hangar.
Yeah, but they're in trouble. Like, they definitely are, like...
Oh, they're sensitive babies at this point because they're so individually touched by the kaiju themselves that it's, how could you not get stuck in that drift, right?
Another thing that doesn't add up for me is, like, didn't he work for the Marshal, like, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Did he never bring up that he, like, had an adopted daughter?
No.
Did she never come around? Like,
no.
How much younger is she than him that 5 years ago she wasn't? And also, how much can she learn in 5 years? Like, what? You know what I mean? I'm like, where the fuck was she?
You're finding the holes.
I'm so sorry.
In this beautifully scripted.
That's exactly what
fiction.
I'm not supposed to do. Sorry.
Lean in,
sorry.
Dakota.
Sorry.
Lean in.
Sorry.
No. I
Just
agree.
saying, secret daughter.
Secret daughter, secret 5-year genius, whatever.
Also, what is the age gap? That's now what I want to know. No, it's okay. Move on.
Maybe 10 years? I don't know. So we flash to, the streets of Hong Kong, what are called the Bone Slums. And a big part of this world building piece is that when the kaijus go down after the Jaegers take them out, their bodies are so fucking big that their skeletons are just kind of like littered all over the world because there's no way, financially you could be able to like dismember them. But these scavengers, pick it apart, basically peel the meat off the bones and just leave the skeletons there. But the cities kind of like operate around, which I think is kind of neat in terms of world building. In Hong Kong, the scientists are trying to track down the location of this black market dealer, and Newt is kind of on the ground doing it. He is
this fucking side quest.
Oh boy.
Crazy.
Oh boy. And I did my best in terms of like trying to like keep it succinct. So it's not all necessarily in chronological order. I kind of just like chunked it to make sense. But he's following hidden signs with a black light to find this, the head honcho of this black market. And he eventually finds this like herbal medicine store that's actually a front for a high level hub of kaiju parts being sold and getting ready to be processed. Ron Perlman plays Hannibal Chow, and he is this slick motherfucker. He's wearing like this maroon suit. He's got these high steampunk goggles on.
Kind of hot in this too.
It's slick. That's for sure.
I don't know, something about it.
Yeah, and kind of like his attitude about it too. He is the head honcho. He's in charge.
He has a good voice too.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would.
He introduces himself to Newt, and they make their negotiations. I just clocked what you said. I would. Newt attempts to get a chunk of the brain, and he tells Hannibal that he's drifted with kaiju, and he knows how they work. They operate in a hive
This is
mind.
one of the parts where they're standing outside on a balcony. It's raining, but they're screaming at each other.
Yeah. It's intense. The world is ending. Everybody is screaming. Like, flash down to the street at like this hot dog vendor, and he's like, "I'll take mustard!" Everybody's yelling.
Yeah.
So we flash back to like the command room where the Aussies are fighting how one doesn't trust the younger one doesn't trust Raleigh and Mako, and he says some sexist bullshit, and Raleigh beats the shit out of him essentially. This is over the top, and the hero complex is just not it. She could hold her fucking own.
To her.
Like, we really got to see how much she could hold her own here.
She could kick that guy's ass herself. Yeah.
There and back, really. And I would have, quite frankly, preferred it. And this whole macho fight scene is cringe, and I won't get into it. It's long. It's like, you say, sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no. But the fight is broken up by the Marshal, and he shares that Mako is off the mission, despite Raleigh's pleas for him to reconsider. He tells the Marshal that he is the one holding Mako back. And the Marshal is like pissed. He threatens to ship him back to the wall unless he falls in line. He's like, do not question my authority. Do not question my authority.
But honestly, like, he's causing absolute chaos.
Oh, this seems as though this was a tight ship, and the second that Raleigh gets in,
it's just like
chaos.
Yeah.
And just as things were getting quiet and kind of like chill, signals are going off that two kaiju are making their way through the breach.
Making their way downtown.
Walking fast, faces passing them homebound. Gorge. That was beautiful. Yeah, we have our episode title. Making my way downtown. All the pilots are rushing to their Jaegers, except Mako and Raleigh, because they've been instructed to go watch. Courtney, your notes here are not good.
No, I think that they're just like, they feel like they're not ready, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else is good. They're like, you guys aren't ready, you're staying here.
And to be fair,
like,
I think
they're
Raleigh
in
and
timeout
Mako
a
are
little
like,
bit.
Okay. Yeah. So we have the Aussies, the Chinese team, the Russian team. So all 3 Jaegers are released into the ocean, again, by like approximately 2 helicopters to go fight these 2 beasts in the middle of the ocean. The Aussies are carrying the big ass bomb, because they're essentially trying to time their master plan of bombing the breach. And so the Aussies are carrying the big bomb to drop in the portal, while the other 2 Jaegers are there to distract the kaiju. The Aussies can't watch their comrades go down because the fight is happening and
they're losing.
They're losing
big
hard.
Time. Yeah.
Their Jaeger arms are being ripped off. The fucking Russians got like drowned essentially, which was a horrific way to go. And they can't stand by because they were instructed to like only focus on the bomb. Protect the coast, but only focus on their one mission. So the Aussies end up kind of like going against orders and putting up a good fight and manage to somehow Hulk Hogan throw that kaiju across the ocean again. The ocean is deep. This is a plot hole that I love to point out. What are they standing on?
Sandbar.
Sandbar. They are on a sandbar. I love it.
Also, I forgot to say this at the beginning. That, like, low horn sound. What? It's like, yeah.
What about it?
It gets to my very core.
In what way? How do you feel?
It's like scary. It's like a animal instinct almost. It's like danger.
You mean the alarm that's going off in the city?
I don't know what it is, but like since the beginning, even the very first scene, there was that like low horn, like, they do that in like, they do that a lot in movies when there's like something really big.
Oh yeah.
And so that's like a big sound to me, you know, and it's like it's scary. Like, can you imagine hearing that in real life?
Oh, you'd be scared.
Yeah.
You'd run for the hills.
It's like the horns of war or something, right? It's like
the horns of war.
I don't know.
That is accurate though, because it's like danger is coming essentially.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had dreams like where I hear that and it's like the most like
guttural.
Visceral fear.
Yeah.
Ugh. But I kind of like it in movies. I'm like,
ooh, it sets the scene.
Yeah. I'm feeling it.
So after the Aussies like Hulk Hogan'd out, they're about to send off like some massive chest missiles to finish the job, but one of the Jaegers sets off, I wrote Jaegers, but one of the kaiju sets off this like EMP wave and essentially knocks out all of the electrical devices in the Jaeger.
Oh yeah, and it just like powers down.
It's like powering down. And Raleigh quickly tells the marshal that Gypsy Danger is analog, but like, how is there not electricity going through that Jaeger? I don't get it.
Well, and it's like saying it's analog, but they're still looking at those like screens that are like freestanding in space that are like, you know, those like futuristic screens that are everywhere in that. Yeah, I don't know.
It's another plot hole.
She's nuclear.
She's nuclear. Sorry. Gypsy Danger's
nuclear.
Nuclear. Like the word nuclear?
Yeah. I just said nuclear. Yeah. I just didn't know.
Oh, like nuclear?
Is it nuclear or nuclear?
Nuclear.
She's nuclear.
And then I wrote, I don't get it. So we flash back quickly to the Bone Slums where Hannibal is making a quick decision to get out of town because like Dakota just said, the alarms are going off because I'm imagining anytime a kaiju signal is raised, everybody on land is like, let's get the fuck into a safe house.
Well, they have bunkers. They've got big bunkers under the city.
That's what it's called.
And he's like, what are you doing? Where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to my own personal private bunker. You're going to the public bunker, bitch.
You do you, boo-boo.
And he's like, good luck in there. I had to go in there one time and that was it. And then he shows him under his glasses. He's got like a fucked up eye.
Oh, so he's implying that it's the Wild West in these bunkers.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And he tells Newt that quickly that the kaijus connected with him as well in that neural link. Not only did Newt see but the kaiju saw him.
I love his parting words. He's like, yeah, and they're probably coming for you.
Yeah. Bye. Not only is it the Wild West in their bunker,
for you,
but you're kind of on the kaiju shit list. So you better get going. They were looking into his brain too. So on the streets of Hong Kong, everyone is scrambling to get into an underground safe house, which I forgot the word for is bunker. And the Aussies are back in the ocean. We're flashing back in there.
This is so fucking stupid.
And they are running around in a dead Jaeger.
So stupid.
This is so fucking dumb because they choose to go outside and shoot the kaiju with flare guns.
Tiny little flare guns. And I love how the dad is like, and he's like, this could be the stupidest thing ever. And it's like, yeah.
No, sir, it is the stupidest thing
He's
ever.
like, we could either sit here or do something really dumb.
And in classic fashion.
Tiny little flare guns.
Tiny little flares. Albeit one did get
in its eye.
The one eye out of what,
it's like, 6? You guys have like huge fucking huge like blaster pistols and like big swords and stuff, and you're gonna go out there with 2 little flares. Not even real guns.
No, just flares. Just flares. And to be fair, like the whole Jaeger is like powered down, so they can't use the guns or the swords.
No. Yeah, exactly.
But go out there with flare guns?
Maybe just stay inside.
Just stay inside.
You're doing nothing, or are you doing nothing?
It's like the T-Rex. Don't move. And she can't see you. Just stay still. Don't move. So just in the nick of time, Mako and Raleigh are dropped off in just a casual couple of helicopters, I wrote, because this bitch is analog, right? And thus begins the second phase of this fight. And at first, it's not looking good for Gypsy Danger. They're like tossed onto shore, and they're drift compatible and they're kind of in the same mind, but they're still not fully like working together.
I did check the time. This fight scene is a full half hour.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And I think the movie does a really good job too, but not overly putting these fights in, because then we'd kind of get bored with them. But I think we had the big ass fight in the beginning, and then there's this huge one on shore. So it's spiced up a little bit. They're now in the streets of Hong Kong. And you know when a giant fist fight with the quote, elbow rocket now happens, it's gonna be a good time.
So, they cut its butt off.
And
it was still going.
Oh, the kaijus never back down. They have a mission. They're there to colonize. So the cheesiness of this movie is super highlighted and showcased right here, because they are fighting with cranes. They're fighting with these massive like shipping containers. They're shooting laser guns straight into the gut of this kaiju. Empty the clip, Mako. Take it down.
Yeah.
And they think this guy's dead, but it keeps like, they go back and they're like, let's check for a pulse. And then proceed to shoot the dead kaiju, and it's like, no pulse. And it's like, okay.
Honestly though, like that's gotta be part of his trauma, because last time he thought a kaiju was dead.
Good point.
His brother got murdered.
Yeah.
So,
fair.
But also it is the kaiju's like their signature move to like play dead and then
like
come back when,
yeah. So back underground with Newt, he's freaking out because the kaiju is literally coming for him.
And he's like inciting panic in this bunker.
He's screaming, they're coming for me! And they're like, the kaiju wants this guy! Give him! The kaiju manages to like punch a hole into the ground and grab Newt, but is interrupted by Gypsy Danger on the outside to rescue by using a cargo ship as a longsword. Again,
this thing's mouth hole thing, and then it's like a flower tendrils, hey?
Oh,
how
yeah,
it opens.
Yeah. It's simultaneously beautiful, disgusting, and terrifying, and cheesy all at the same time.
Yeah, cheesy.
So, some serious Power Ranger pounder. The serious Power Ranger shit
pounding happens.
Is going on right now, and it's all happening in the middle of downtown Hong Kong with giant skyscrapers and neon lights.
Skyscrapers.
I can't speak. And this fight is tearing up the city. Like proper destruction. And I'm thinking about the budget that goes towards these Jaegers, but let's consider the budget that has to go to like the restoration and cleanup crew of just
when I think about that's the biggest thing for me with like superhero movies and stuff, where I'm like, I can't watch this because this destruction is like it's just too much.
And like the casualties that go down, like I said, they're tearing up the city. And some highlights of this fight include a Jaeger releasing a coolant into the tail, which then freezes it so it could like break off into pieces. Also, this thing has wings. It takes flight, and it takes the Jaeger and it flies up higher and higher and higher into another atmosphere. where it loses oxygen.
Amazing.
And we think the fight is over, but no, they have a massive sword. So now the Jaeger, after like cutting this thing in half, now he's falling from the sky because the Jaeger doesn't have wings.
They should have been fighting with their sword the whole time. This is so, why are they trying to do like hand to hand and then like shoot little shoot stuff into it? It's like, you guys have already showed in your little stick fight, you're really competent with the sword.
Get
like
that
you
sword
just
out.
Took the sword out and immediately cut it in half.
Would have solved so much destruction.
What are we doing?
No, I think we really
fight to your strengths. Like Cillian Murphy.
Those cheekbones. Okay. Speaking of cheese. So the Jaeger's falling from the sky. Gypsy Danger's falling from the sky at some serious speed.
I love this part, yeah.
And they're essentially on fire. All of this fear of like, are they going to make it?
They're re-entering the atmosphere.
But they stick the landing.
Yeah.
They win for now. Orders are made to attend to the fallen Jaegers and get them back up to speed and reset the clock for the next kaiju countdown. And on the streets of Hong Kong, the scavengers are busy at work, taking as many kaiju pieces as possible before it can go bad. Newt and Hannibal are in the process of getting that brain chunk. So there's like this retrieval crew that goes inside the kaiju to get the brain, but they hear a heartbeat, and we find out that this little kaiju is actually a kaiju mommy.
She's
pregnant. And ruh-roh, it is time to fucking get out of there because apparently, the kaiju
she's
birthing,
giving birth now.
Postmortem. This slime baby kaiju makes its way out onto the streets where it chases Newt down to the ground but strangles itself with its own umbilical cord, which is gross.
This is rough, actually.
Yeah, it's really gnarly. And they also now have a viable brain to work with because the mommy brain had been damaged. Newt and Herman begin to set up the neural interface with the kaiju brain, and this time they'll go in together to share the neural
Sorry,
load.
You skipped the part
I did.
where...
I'm trying to, like, cut out some pieces.
No, this is no. Sorry. So then the baby strangles itself. Then Hannibal comes back and he's like, I knew it was going to do that.
Yeah.
Baby's dead. All of a sudden, baby wakes up, eats Hannibal, and then immediately dies for real.
Yeah.
So Hannibal is deceased.
He has been eaten. Because that does come back a little bit later on if you watched after the credits.
I didn't.
You didn't? Okay, well, no spoilers.
Okay.
So
I know it's hard though when you're trying to cut and you're like, what's relevant, what's not.
So much happens in this movie.
Yeah.
So much happens in this movie. So after, a bit of time goes
watching
by,
it, I was like, this is a big job.
This is so much information. So Newt and Herman begin to set up the neural interface with the baby kaiju brain, and they agree to go in together and share the load. Share the load, Frodo. Back at the Jaeger base, the Martian reveals that he has radiation sickness from being in the original Jaegers, so the Mach 1s.
Yeah.
He explained that it took Earthlings, humans, 14 months.
Did you write Earthlings?
For some reason, Earthlings came into my mind as I was explaining it. So the Marshal explains to Raleigh that it took them 14 months to build the first Mach 1 to fight back at the Kaijus.
And they were just fucking throwing shit together.
All of the technology.
As fast as they could.
Because at that point it was like, do
they
or die.
They were not worried about any, other repercussions, just getting this done. Yeah.
So they did not have the luxury of considering the radiation damage that these pilots were going to get. And he said that, so the Marshal said that he can't even step foot into a Jaeger and lock in or he'll die. In the hangar, they are all gearing up to go back out to fight more kaiju that have popped up, and they're just hanging out in the ocean though. They're not approaching shore as they typically do. So they're guarding something.
Do you think this is because of the mind link? That they found out from Charlie's brain that they were planning on attacking
something.
The hole.
So they're guarding
why
the
they're
hole.
Guarding it?
Yeah.
Probably.
That makes the most sense to me because their behavior is different. And so they're guarding obviously the breach. The Marshal is now suited up though, because even though he's gonna die, he has to co-pilot with the cocky Aussie because the Aussie's dad can't get in there because of a broken
injured.
arm. Yeah, he's
which
injured.
is kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of like, don't they only need one arm to do it? Like, couldn't they just
right and left
switch sides?
Switch sides. But I don't know how to do it on the left side, Dad.
Yeah, and so the dad, I don't know. I just kind of feel like the dad, that's a real cop out from the dad, and like this mission is so fucking dangerous.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I was just kind of like,
my thumb is broken, so I'm not gonna do it. I love it.
Like,
he's giving Courtney energy, really.
If anyone is like, so Idris Elba's like taking one of their places.
Yeah.
Then dad goes in and lets his son live.
Yeah.
No.
I No.
Whatever.
Because this is a redemption story for the cocky ass son to show that he's a hero.
He does not deserve to fucking get sent to death. I'm sorry.
No.
Anyway.
So right after the marshal said, I'm gonna die if I go back into a Jaeger, you see him suited up to go into a Jaeger, which is just so fucking epic and perfect.
Yeah. And it is emotional. It actually is emotional.
It is, because I think they're realizing now that this is it.
This is it.
This is the last fucking shot they have to do something about this issue, this big motherfucking issue.
Yeah.
And the marshal gives a wicked inspirational speech, and he quotes, quote, "It's time to cancel the apocalypse," and people are fucking going apeshit crazy. They are amped. They are ready. Like, this is the last ditch effort. So Herman and Newt manage to link with the brain, and find out that the plan to bomb the breach is not going to work. Uh-oh.
Crazy.
Uh-oh. And the Jaegers have already been launched, though. So Mako and Raleigh, Marshall and the Aussie are on their way, walking out to the ocean floor, towards the breach. So they're actually, again, we get a glimpse at so before, the machines are able somehow to be shin deep, waist deep, and now they are fully submerged underwater, walking on the ocean floor.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, doesn't matter, I love it. It's all fucking camp. Mm-hmm. So the Jaegers are walking on the ground underwater towards the breach, and they're being surrounded by swimming kaiju. They're so fast.
The fastest that they've ever seen.
Can't even see them.
They can't even see them.
They can't even see them. And the command room was like, "Can't you see them? You're surrounded."
He's like, No.
Actually, no.
No.
The fact that they're fighting baddies in the ocean and the space, like I said earlier, is so fucking good. This movie.
You know what
genius.
I like too is because they have their radar in the command center, and they show it a lot through the movie.
Yeah.
And the Jaegers are green and the kaijus are red, and that is just such a handy little
visual.
Yeah.
It's so good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, green is good, red is bad.
Yeah.
The scientists managed to make it in time, just in time to tell the pilots that the bomb plan won't work because of their neural drift that they did. They saw that in order for the portal to open properly for them to get the bomb in to destroy the link between our world and theirs, they have to pass through with the genetic code of the kaiju. So it's basically a key to open the door.
Yeah, they explain it as a barcode at a supermarket.
Exactly. You will not be able to go through.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Yeah,
it
me
was very
too.
helpful. So kind of like a barcode as they're sharing this news, the mother of all mother kaijus are coming through at a cat fucking 5.
Cause they were also the math guy was there's only 2. There should be 3.
Yeah.
My mathematics. Why isn't there 3?
I'm always correct.
And then it's there you fucking go. There's your third one. Are you happy?
Surprise!
Are you happy now?
Are you happy now? Math, in fact, did not save the day. Or maybe it did. Fuck math. So this kaiju's big. Really, really big. Yeah. And just as Mako and Raleigh are making their plan to attack this Cat 5, this speedy, sneaky kaiju attacks from the side, Jurassic Park style, clever girl.
Yeah.
There you are on the left. They get caught up in that
because they're talking, they're making a plan. They're we're gonna do this,
and we'll get this.
Boom! And then it's
kaiju in your face. So they are caught up in that they are caught up fighting that Cat 4, while the big Cat 5 goes after the Marshal and the Aussie. So obviously a fight ensues, big punches, big whoa moments, and despite their arm getting bitten off, Mako and Raleigh managed to spear the Cat 4 underwater into an underwater lava geyser. And
they hold its face onto the
it's burn on this motherfucker. And they split the other Cat 4 in half with their big sword.
That was good. It was coming
solid
right for them.
And they did that slight move where the thing's coming at them at the speed of light, and they just bring up their sword last minute, and he literally swims into the sword and cuts himself in half. It's movie magic, really. So the biggest of the baddies sounds off the alarm, right? So he goes, wah! And the Marshal instructs Gypsy Danger to destroy the breach while Stryker, so that's their kaiju's name, Stryker, holds the remaining kaiju off. So they're going to blow themselves up to defend the breach, so that Gypsy Danger can kind of get through the breach with one of the kaiju as their key. So the Jaegers are not looking so good. They have one arm and barely 2 legs functioning, and they're trying to drag a body of the kaiju to the ledge of the breach, but the Cat 5 survived the blast of the Stryker going off, and so there's this showdown now between the Cat 5, and Gypsy Danger.
So Stryker is
down.
So Idris Elba and the Aussie are dead.
But they did manage to take out a couple of the other Cat 4s, which I wasn't really sure on the math here how many were actually floating around. But
there's 3 altogether, I think.
3 altogether.
2 littler ones and 1 big one.
And I thought Gypsy Danger took out the 2 little ones. So Stryker managed to do some damage, but not take out the Cat 5.
Also, Idris Elba, before he died, he said to Mako, he was like, I'll always be with you in the drift, or whatever, and like,
yeah,
there was like a sweet moment of
a really thoughtful goodbye. Yeah. So now there's this like standoff. Gypsy Danger activates their jetpack. And spears the Cat 5 with its massive sword to drag it through the breach. So they managed to get through the mouth hole of the dimension portal. And I think they actually even call it like the throat, even between the 2 portals.
Sure, yeah. It's a tube, for sure.
It's a tube. And Raleigh gives Mako his oxygen because they're not looking so hot. And she got like her oxygen disconnected while they're going through the throat, and Raleigh attaches oxygen to her and releases her into escape pod to float to the surface while he remains in the Jaeger. So Raleigh is left to self-destruct this Jaeger manually because it's like a walking nuclear bomb, right? We've said it multiple times. They don't have the bomb anymore because it went off with Stryker. So he has to self-sacrifice the Jaeger and try to get out in time. And when it goes off, it's going to destroy not only the breach, but the other side entirely.
I really thought that he wasn't even going to try to get out. I thought he was killing himself in this moment,
Well, it kind of gives off that he is the hero, he is self-sacrificing, but he's going off script again where he has to, manually self-destruct this Jaeger. And he manages to set it off and get into escape pod just in time.
And it's like in the alien's face.
The aliens are like, what? Yeah, so the bomb goes off, the Jaeger like explodes, and all of the kaiju clones are, destroyed, and the colonists, the evil masters of the alien world are also destroyed. And the world,
and
the breach,
his escape pod just floats back up into the butthole. Like,
yeah, exactly. So as it's collapsing around him, he makes it up just in time. So on the surface of the ocean, Mako's pod makes it out safely, and she sees that Raleigh's pod is also at the surface, but he has no vital signs. The classic, holding him and being like, I'm so sorry you died, and he's like, I can't breathe. You're squeezing me too tight.
Great.
Surprise, he's alive.
Yeah.
They both made it.
Kind of wanted him to die though.
I think that would have,
and then she'd be like
been the full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To like
free from Raleigh.
I don't know. But I don't know. I just feel like that would have been an interesting.
It would have worked.
Yeah.
The breach is sealed. The kaiju clock is officially stopped. People freak out because the day is saved now. But not without sacrifice, certainly. And the 2 remaining Jaeger pilots touch foreheads as they float in the middle of the ocean with a sense of relief, exhaustion, and joy as more helicopters come to save them. And the movie ends. Holy shit, what a saga.
What happens after the credits?
Okay, so there's an after credits scene where we are back on the streets of Hong Kong, and Ron Perlman's character cuts his way out of the baby kaiju and says something dumb like, couldn't keep me down or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's great.
I love it.
It was really
That's
great.
Funny.
So he survived. The Hellboy survived.
Amazing.
But that's the 2013 science fiction movie monster movie classic, Pacific Tim.
You got me there.
Yeah, I got you.
You got me.
Okay, so thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry that I didn't give it a real chance before.
You weren't in the right mind.
I wasn't. But I loved it. Like right from pretty much when he woke up and he woke up his brother and it was like that dynamic. I was like, oh yeah, this is so bad.
Yeah.
This is so fucking bad. Like the acting was rough at a lot of times. There was so much action. It was like too much. It was crazy.
Overstimulated.
I loved it. Yeah. I really had to, I didn't even have a drink. I just had water. I was like, I had to like really focus. Cause you know me, right? Yeah. When there's like a lot of action happening, I completely lose the plot.
And I just like a zone out.
I'm like, yeah. So I had to really focus. So I was proud of myself with that.
I'm proud of you too.
I loved it. I think I would have liked to have a little bit more interaction with like the other teams.
Yeah.
You know? Just like a little, just for more like, I don't know, dynamic and, but yeah, I thought it was fucking great. It was awesome. It was
so simple, but also overly complicated.
As I was watching it, I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, you know? And like, I had my own little questions, but that's in fun. That's not like...
Oh, it's not to pick it apart.
Like real judgment, yeah.
But the more... like, the more plot holes, the more fun.
Yeah,
because it's like, this is so fucking dumb. How could this even begin to make sense? But it does. And I don't know, it's good. Like, I have seen this movie obviously multiple times, and this is the first movie of a franchise. There are multiple Pacific Rims.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to watch them now.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you, because the second one, the villain, I'm just saying.
There's like a human villain?
Human villain.
What's the second one called?
Pacific Rim 2.
Oh, because there's some on Netflix now.
So I think there's an animated one.
There's like Uprising.
I think that's the second one.
Okay.
Uprising.
I can just Google it too.
And I think it's got Joey, John Boyega.
Oh yeah.
The handsome stormtrooper from Star Wars.
I don't know Star Wars, but I know that name.
Yeah.
I've seen him.
This movie is epic. It's a good time every time, because every time you watch it, it's kind of like noticing something dumb or something else that you didn't notice before. And I think anything more would be trying too hard in a different direction, I think.
Yeah. I loved that like macho army way that they communicated. I thought was so funny.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is that one of the two guys needed to have like brown hair.
Right.
Or like something other defining feature. They were so similar in look.
Yeah.
That it was really, I don't know, it literally just took away for me because of that.
Who is this again? What?
Well, and it's just like, why are we casting two guys that look exactly the same to be enemies? Like, it's silly. I don't know. So there was that, but yeah, R.I.P. Yancey, R.I.P. Idris Elba's character.
Yeah.
And to the Russians and
everybody else
who
really
lost their lives. I thought Charlie Day was an absolute highlight of this movie.
Chaos.
We need the chaos and the joy, right? We needed that fun.
Cause he is obsessed.
Yeah.
And he's in the second movie. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I loved it. I really liked it a lot.
I'm glad. And I really appreciate that you gave it a second shot, obviously.
Always,
for the pod,
of course.
but
well, yeah, like
in general,
was legally obligated to.
Legally obligated. How do you want to rate this movie?
Category.
Oh, okay.
I guess out of 5, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
It only goes up to Cat 5.
I'm gonna go Cat 6. I fucking love this movie.
We've never seen it.
It's the biggest
before.
Yet. I have this. It's the fastest model yet from Harry Potter. Yeah, it is to this day a standout action comedy. Curious, maybe romance, who knows. I like that they didn't kiss at the end.
The way that she looks at him when they first meet.
Yeah. It's like, oh.
It was like a love at first sight moment, kind of.
But it wasn't about the romance, and they didn't define Mako's character by romance either, which I really appreciated. She was a full functioning human being without being, goo goo gaga.
Yeah.
But of course there were a couple moments where she was staring at this shirtless man, which I get, whatever.
I mean, he's handsome.
Yeah.
Like, he's very handsome. He looks like a lot of guys that I had crushes on when I was in,
dusty
when I was a
hair,
kid.
dusty blonde hair. It is a Cat 6 because it will never get old. There are obviously some moments where some misogynistic jokes are said.
Yeah. Or like the fight where it's like, this is fucking stupid.
Dumb.
Like, it doesn't even,
Yeah, let her fight
You're
for
not
herself.
protecting her honor. It's just like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
honestly,
you've known her for what, 4 hours? Really? At that point?
And it's like, there's a difference between, it's like, speak up for her or whatever, or like, be on her side. Say, but it was just like too much. It's like misplaced.
And it turned into, this is my fight with you now, not necessarily.
It had nothing to do with her. That fight had nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
You know who should have been in this movie?
Who?
I can't remember his name, but we've talked about him before, and he has brown hair, and he was in the first Doom, and he was in Lord of the Rings.
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban should have been in this movie.
He's in The Boys right now, and he does a great job in that show.
He should have been in this movie. And I think 2013, he could have been in this.
He could have been in this movie.
At that time,
he should have been one of the Aussies.
I'm
sure he could put one up.
I think so. On. I think he should have been like,
Yeah.
That's
good call.
Thank you. I feel like he's got the right vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How would you rate it?
4. Cat 4.
Cat 4.
maybe like cat 3.5.
Fair.
On the way to 4. There's like halfway through the cats, one comes out and it's like stronger than 3, but it's not fully 4 yet.
It's got an extra limb, but it's
We're
not
going to say
4.
where it is.
It's underwater.
That's all we'll say. Yeah, because, you know, I saw the merits in it.
Yeah.
I got it. Instantly I got it. I loved it. Yes, it was campy.
Yeah.
Yes, it was great monster action. The half-hour fight scene, it's too much for me. It's just too much for me. And that's kind of a fine balance that I've always had with kind of action movies. I like action and I love like monsters and shit like that. But when it goes on like that, like for me personally, I'm like, I can't.
Looking at the time.
It's like different, but like with Avatar, I'm like, I understand that the main point of these movies is because they're visually amazing, but we could cut an hour out of this movie. And it would still say the exact same. We wouldn't be missing anything.
No.
You know what I mean?
So
I'm that's how I really feel like am with stuff. So for me, it was just, for me, gratuitous. A little, you know?
Absolutely.
But just for my attention span.
Fair.
But
whereas I could have had at least another half an hour more of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it is about it. I love the creativity of the fighting. I personally would have liked to see some kind of like kaiju tag team, like one getting on top of the other and like under a trench coat, like fighting each other or fighting with each other. But yeah,
two kaiju in a trench coat. That's so funny.
Yeah. Talk about like another movie franchise, really. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think. Please feel free to share your comments on Instagram.
I have to fucking draw.
I know, I'm not done.
Oh, you were just saying.
I was just saying, like, if you have something to say about the kaiju and the
let us
Jaeger.
know. Yeah.
And might I say that someone has already guessed correctly on our first episode, which I love. So feel free to interact with us on Instagram or on Facebook. But we are in the process now of pulling our next movie.
Take a couple.
Go. Shaky, shaky, shaky.
Hands are so sweaty.
Well, I think I'm sweat. Like every
it's
part
just
of me is sweaty.
Stagnant in here. Yeah. I'm like,
show me.
I don't know if you're gonna know just based off that.
I can't even read it. I have never heard of this. Oh, baby.
I don't know how you feel about musicals.
Do you know who I am? I break out in song.
Oh, duh.
In every moment possible.
You know what's funny? My dad always says that he doesn't like musicals, but his favorite movies are My Fair Lady, Oliver, and The Jungle Book.
I think he likes musicals. He needs to look at himself in the mirror and say,
"It's so funny.
I'm a musical man."
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm really fucking excited. I've been wanting to watch it so bad lately. This one goes so deep for me. It goes so hard. Like, I am so fucking excited about this.
Oh, I had a friend who is this energy. When it came out, every time I would go over to her house, we're like, she's like, we're watching this. I'm like, okay, but it's been like 10 times now. She's like, it doesn't matter. You're staying over at my house. We're watching this movie.
I have the soundtrack, not from the movie, but from the Broadway with the different people.
Oh boy.
My CD player doesn't work in my current car, but in my old car, it was in the CD player for like 8 months straight. I would fucking blast it.
Cause it's epic. That's all, that's the only word that I will use to describe this movie. It is pure epic.
Yeah. I'm really excited.
Okay. So,
also the vibe shift is so crazy.
That is the beauty of our podcast is that we'll go from, I don't know, 1990s animated to a hardcore 2013 monster movie.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with us, please email us at newfriendscinema@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, New Friends Cinema, and on Instagram, New Friends Cinema. And please feel free to hit us up on any one of those platforms.
Yeah,
and
follow us.
Yeah, follow us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all those things.
If you are a listener and you enjoy listening, we also ask if you could please download our episodes on whatever platform you listen on. It is an extra step, I know, but that is what matters for us, for our like back of house stuff.
The numbers.
And so we would really, really just appreciate it if you're already listening, if you just went that extra little step for us.
Download. Just a little boop. Get into that Wi-Fi. Don't spend your data, but like
no.
Go to the local library. Do it at home.
Yes.
But
in a restaurant that has free Wi-Fi.
Sure. Hit up the local Tim Hortons if you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
We're so synced.
Should we?
Can we?
What do they call it?
We're drifting.
Let's go drift.
Let's drift. Like you can't see us, but both of our eyes rolled in the back of our head and we are drifting. Okay, love you, bye. Every time I hear your text message sound, I'm like, I love it.
Oh, we were watching Welcome to Wrexham the other day, and Ryan Reynolds' phone was ringing, and we thought it was Prob's phone. They have the same ringtone.
Twinsies.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Colton will be here in 5 hours.
Oh my god! Cool.